students. This is 11:45 a.m. Friday. We are here for BDA Lecture 2, Session 1. Please confirm that you can hear me. All right, thank you. Yes, thank you. Okay, so uh, I see, less strength. I know there are total 149 students as per the, list of students for 7th SEM computer engineering. So I would have to report this to CKB sir if the strand goes below 50% or 70%. Okay, so make sure you guys are focused, attend class and labs. Okay, this is just the first week. I'm not sure why you guys are still in relaxed mode. Uh, okay, so wake your friends up and ask them to join classes and labs. Okay, you still have to go far. It's not like you're in 7 SEM, so done. No. Okay. Uh, Fine. So with that, let's get started with the lecture. I will just, share the entire screen. So I'm sure you're able to see the screen, right? What I will start with, let's see. All right. So I will start with this, Google Classroom. I already have provided the link, uh, right? It's there in your students WhatsApp group too. So I saw people in the list of students. I saw only 129 registration. So others, please join if you have not joined already, because I'll start streaming some latest news and updates. So make sure you join this Google Classroom. Uh, the Google Classroom link I will paste one more time. What's happening? I'll paste one more time, okay? And this is last time I'm pasting it, okay? Uh, Fine. And there is this particular folder. What you? I hope that link works this way. This is the last time I'm sharing it. Make sure you help your friends to reach here. Fine. Uh, okay. So with that, going back to the Google Classroom. Okay, so please join the classroom as soon as possible. So mostly starting Monday, I will start streaming, new updates. Uh, and those who have not, preceded their name properly, Harsh, please remove underscore from CE underscore 041. We normally need, CE then roll number. So remove this extra underscore here. Please convey to Harsh, his friends, Bridges, and a few other students. Mansi, Meghna, Raj, please update your display name appropriately so that we know you are there in the order list while we check assignment submission, etc. Okay, so with that, let's get started. So this is one topic which I like to add as maybe filler. Okay, sometimes like this versus that. So many times it is good to compare and contrast and learn, right? So we have started with programming paradigm. We have talked about computer architectures. We have talked about scaling, right? There are so many more things. Actually, this is updated lecture by lecture, but for you it is ready available. So you may read ahead of time if you may be interested, or as and when I'll touch topics, I'll take this up. So recently, yesterday in the lab, we talked about something like data processing, right? And we talked about two primary topic, which are OLTP, online transaction processing, and we also talked about OLAP, that is online analytical processing. But remember, I told you there is one more in the market. So here, first OL is common, right? OL is common, right? Now, uh, from the second and third, the last two are common, CAP. So analytical processing is common, but this was termed as online, uh, while this is real time. So there is one more term you get to know, which is called RTAP, real time analytical processing. Okay. Um, Fine. So I hope these three terms make sense to you. This is very much like your relational databases, OLTP. Okay. OLAP is very much like a data warehouse, which we have tried doing, the data cube yesterday. And real-time analytical processing, it has to do primarily with, data streams and IoT, where you do real-time analytical processing. Okay, fine. So as I said, things will, we will talk more one after another. Okay, um, or you may refer, ahead of time. Fine. So let's move on to the next topic in the row today, uh, which is moving code to data. Fine. So I raised this topic name previously, right? Let's just understand it. Moving code to data. So far, what we used to do, at least semester one, if you recall, uh, when you were introduced to function, you were introduced to pass by value, pass by reference, right? So main function has this stack frame uh, where it has the data, and when it calls the supporting function, any other user-defined function, it passes those data elements either by pass by value or pass by reference, right? So it was actually moving data to code. I repeat, when you pass arguments to function, it is the other way around, which is moving data to code. I mean source code. Okay, so that was what was happening. Since programming is in market. Okay, moving data to code. Fine. So I believe you understand the term moving data to code. But then now the scenario has changed, and let's understand this. So now the scenario is not only function parameter etc. That is definitely there, but primarily there is one more concept, which is moving code to data. So let's understand this, and hopefully that makes some sense, right? So wherever data resides, we are now gonna move code to that place, and that code will play the role of its processing logic on top of that data to generate the result. Why this is now required? The reason is, previously we used to have on a single core, or tightly coupled computer, right? I believe you understand tightly coupled and loosely coupled. That's to actually go to this versus that. If it is not already there, it should be added. Okay, tightly coupled versus loosely coupled. Let me check it's there or not. It's not, so I will add. So do learn tightly coupled and loosely coupled. Okay, systems, fine. So uh, it used to be mostly tightly coupled, where on the same motherboard you have CPU as well as primary memory, which is RAM. Okay, so that was tightly coupled. Now loosely coupled meaning you have different places of this processing as well as storage. Okay, so and recently the surge in data has grown from uh, terabytes to peta and whatever zeta and all. Is a hell lot of data being produced. Okay, you may find some statistic which might talk how fast the data is growing worldwide. So what happens, now the processing, which is going towards the small and small unit, like microservices. Okay, so those services, actually the processing, the logic, the code, if it resides at one place, and if you tend to move the data to that place, uh, that's gonna be difficult, because be it large data, as well as be it the movement from one data center to another data center, bandwidth, network topologies, all these concerns, right? So the volume of data is so high that moving data to core is nowadays, I mean, expensive. So people thought of the other way around possibility, and actually it is possible because of some concept called functions being first class citizen. You might not have heard about it, but we know first class, I mean VIP, or first class. We know that, right? And now citizen, I mean, is just data and function. So out of them, they say who is first class citizen. I mean, who gets the priority, or I mean, so you may Google about it, okay? Function being first class citizen, and read about it. But I'll tell you what is happening. Previously, movement of data was smooth, but architecture wise, function movement, uh, I mean, passing a function as data itself. Okay, we definitely pass data which has some information, like records, like your name, ID, age. All those is still data. I mean, information. Function, when you may say it is also data. Why not? I mean, that's true. But function is still function. It's not information. It is like logical statements. So before, only information movement was possible. The function movement was not possible. Uh, but then this mechanism of function being first class citizen, that means even functions can be passed as an argument to other function. And that actually started with pointer to function. If you might recall the concept of pointer to function, where even functions can be passed as argument to other functions. I mean, the logic, name, etc. Okay, so what I was saying is, now the data will be at the place wherever they are, but the program, I mean the function, I mean the source code will, not the source code, of course, the binary, but the code will move to that location, and the CPU will execute that code on the data where it resides. So it is actually taking the benefit of locality of reference. I mean, you might know this term, locality of data reference, or locality of reference, right? You see here this locality of data reference. So let me give you an analogy here that uh, let's say from different parts of the world, uh, all the students have gathered into our capital, let's say New Delhi. Okay, physically, I'm just, this is the scenario before pandemic actually. Let's say students have to gather into uh, you know the city, let's say capital Delhi. Okay, now if they go to join some expert lecture, the expert resides in, let's say, Gujarat. Okay, so what might be suitable? The expert travel to Delhi will be suitable, or all the students travel from Delhi to Gujarat for attending the lecture, will that be suitable? I mean, in both the cases, the objective is student uh, attend the expert lecture, and expert lecture delivers the expert content. The objective is same, but which approach is better? I mean, do the expert traveling to Delhi is better, or do all 1,000 or 5,000 students travel from Delhi to Gujarat is better? So I hope that analogy, that scenario, nowadays the online mediums are there, so nobody has to travel. So that's a new scenario. But then other than that, traveling 1,000 students from one place to another place, you can consider it as data moving from one place to other place, other than moving code, which is, let's say, expert moving from Gujarat to Delhi. Okay, so that's what the moving code to data concept is. And if I may read this, in most big data analytics scenarios, you have multiple commodity nodes. Now the systems will be considered as nodes, okay? And they do possess a large amount of data blocks to be processed for the given task. Now, when the task, of course, the binary code, which is a function, as is a first-class citizen, instead of moving all large blocks of data to certain single computer, where even the memory and other concerns are at high, right? So is not advised, of course. So what is advised? We better move, we better have multiple copies of the code, which is, a short a block or a small block. We let it move to, wherever the data resides. Okay. And this is possible. Okay, you will learn something about RMI, remote method invocation. You might have also heard about something called MPI, message passing interface. In your OS, you might have learned about RPC, remote, what was that? Remote procedure call. Have you learned remote procedure call somewhere in your OS? RPC, right? So all these things matters, okay? All these things connect. Please make sure you are able to connect all these things like RPC, remote procedure call, right? They are actually the fundamentals. They have started all this, distributed computing and, the network and cloud and IoT, all these things, they have base in the previous things what you have already launched. So RPC, you already know it is remote procedure call. We are going to see demo sometime, okay, of the same if you might not have seen it, remote procedure call. But I'm providing you two more terms, which is called MPI, which has to do with message passing interface. Okay, there is a programming possible with this. Okay, OpenMPI and other framework are made available. And what was the other one? RPC, MPI, and what was the other one? Oh, why did I forget? Uh, why did I forget? Yeah, RMI, remote method invocation. So RPC, right now, seek the similarity and difference between, remote procedure call, okay, and remote method invocation. RMI is again a package library, I would say. Okay, so explore all these things. And all these things actually made this, concept possible, which is moving code to data. Okay, and that actually takes benefit. It actually that's called locality of reference or locality of data. Okay, so this is called moving code to data instead of traditional approach where data was traveling. Network bandwidth, of course, is immediate benefit, right? Because code will be small in size versus data, which is huge, like big data, right? Uh, Read more about all these things. And yeah, so Lambda expression, those who know Lambda expression or functional programming supported in Java 8 plus, that's actually an example which supports moving code to data. And we are going to learn Hadoop and MapReduce, where MapReduce, the architecture itself takes benefit of functional programming. I mean, it does move code to data internally. Okay, data doesn't move, no. Okay, so any question in the topic moving code to data? Does it make sense? Do you understand moving code to data, or do you need some more example or analogies? Fine. So I am assuming that you all understood the topic theoretically at least. Fine. So we'll now move on to the next topic. Um, okay, let me actually go to the lecture taken last year's. So yeah, moving code to data, locality of reference, that is what we have just talked about. Okay. Now, so let me resume these two topics, then we'll move on further. So in the previous lecture, I was talking about some Google research paper, right? So is they're available in this Google Classroom now with links. Okay, you might refer them if you are interested in learning research way. Fine. And what is primary thing? What you have to focus here is something called file system, which is Google File System. Okay, GFS, and it's a little old. I mean, there are a lot of more things developed already on top of this. Okay, but the fundamental things you definitely have to learn and understand multiple times. So later on, we'll talk about something called CAP theorem, where we'll talk about reliability, availability, performance, etc. What you are seeing here. We'll also practice, file system commands, which are, distributed file system commands, and we'll also practice the processing, which is the map reviews in labs during hands-on. But those students who are interested in understanding the depth, distributed systems, clouds, and all that, they are basis. You please read through this as much as possible. I mean, do read multiple times. Uh, so the first thing was the file system. Then they have actually opened up the cluster for data processing, and this is again distributed storage for structured data. So these three papers, I mean, when Google opened up these three papers, the community started working on all these technologies in a better way. So I think there is one quote somebody has mentioned, saying Google lives in I forgot exact quote for now, but the meaning was Google lives in future, and it sends us signals which we may be able to utilize for our current present. So this is like all these three papers, of course, they released after uh, utilizing a lot of stuff from these. They might have prepared all these things maybe 10 years prior, which is let's say to 1995 for example, or year 2000, but this was released in 2, 4, and 6, whenever it is. But the point is, once this was made available to public, public or the community started developing with their ideas on top of the existing, and that's how Hadoop ecosystem got started, where many of the Hadoop ecosystem components are developed by various community of people, as well as the industry, and all the industries like tech giants are utilizing those things behind the scene for all of their clouds. Okay, so if you guys really want to be part of those teams who bring uh, new stuff and challenging stuff, okay, they work on architecture and all, these three papers are definitely for you. I know they are little old, but of course at your age you start with basis of what we are already having now. So go about this, learn them. And there was big table and like names of data structures. Okay, so there are data structures which were named certainly. Okay, and maybe because these few thing people started saying big data, the data what we have, the giant availability of data, maybe people started saying big data. Okay, we don't know who coined the term big data, but we can guess like it might have come from such words from other bases. So do learn all these things. I know it's a lot, but of course you have to go in depth. Okay, so Google research paper, as I just provided to you. The next thing is those who are interested in coding. Okay, I mean, you say like, show me the code. Okay, I don't want to talk about show me the code. Then the answer is actually the Hadoop, the whole framework built on on top of this Google research papers by the community, right, of Apache. Uh, they have made available the source code. Okay, and that source code is there. Uh, where, let's just find it out. So that source code should be there, right? Hadoop common source code. So you may actually go to GitHub uh, and look into the source code of complete Hadoop. So those who are interested into source code, for example, in first year I used to provide them source code of C library. You are learning C, you are using string copy function, but how nice it would be if I get you the real source code of string copy itself. Okay, so if you have not come across that, C source code, GNU, uh, maybe you look somewhere here. Okay, um, I may not be able to give you right away, but sources, no, not this. Check about it, okay? But the source code of C itself is available. Hopefully, it's this only. Yeah, gleft C. It is this. Okay. So those who are interested in getting the source code of C itself, and interested in getting the string copy, how the string copy function is designed, efficiently by the original seed developers. I mean, the pioneer people. So that way, I'm letting you provide the Hadoop source code also is available at GitHub. You may download and go in depth, okay, to understand how they have developed stuff. And I'm certain this source code somewhere eh, in the bottom it is utilizing distributed systems and computing, which is primarily on MPI, message passing interface, RMI, remote method invocation, RPC, etc. So do explore. So multi-threading, fork like multi-processes and all those things are common. Okay, and this is in Java. Okay, it's not C language, but they may also have some modules in some other languages. But primarily, I think is in Java. Okay. Um, No, I am at not proper place. Okay, so explore that. I actually have looked at few source code also, but it's been a while. I didn't look at that yet recently, so I forgot. Okay, so I believe that providing source code to you may help you. It's not my work, of course not, but I'm actually leading you a way, which might give you proper or in-depth understanding. So this is research, this is programming. Fine. So with that, all the topics from previous lecture one covered. We talked about moving code to data, right? Now let's talk about some applications of big data and analytics. Okay. So, uh, so real-time traffic on roads. When did you see that first time? Real-time traffic. Where have you seen this? I mean, do you get help to know real-time traffic? Of course, where? Google Maps. And I believe it was, yes, yes, I believe I experienced that in maybe year 2008 or so, maybe 2009. I don't want to, but I don't recollect exactly. But I literally used this first time in iPhone, in certain years, okay, when it was introduced, the real time traffic. So it would show literally on the map the red color, right? The red color, right? So that's real-time traffic. Now, how do you do this? I mean, can that be the application of big data analytics? Then answer, I mean, yes, why not? Because you have huge, data, which is nothing but worldwide. You have, and I thought it was introduced in USA first. I'm not certain it was introduced worldwide or not. Um, but then it was, I mean, the traffic, the satellites, are running a lot of hell lot of you know processing, maybe image processing, or especially in US at that time, GPS, the navigation, right? You guys know this now, right? There is a navigation device also which actually directly communicates to satellite. But then, with data plan nowadays, all the smartphones are also, or maybe you crack, or what is it, jailbreak and all. I haven't done that, so I don't know that. If you make jailbreak and all, the mobile devices also can communicate to satellite, and without data plan, uh, you guys might be able to get, GPS. Don't do illegal stuff. I'm not certain what all things are legal there. Okay, but the point is, they had the data, okay, be it via image processing or be it via signals which navigation systems send. So maybe that is raw data or image data, but they must have done some analytics to find out live that, okay, here in on these roads where you're traveling, uh, just ahead of a few miles there is a traffic, and they were able to show it literally red, right? And it was fascinating. I'm sure it was fascinating to us when we saw it first time. Even the GPS, like navigation, was um, you know uh, fascinating, because I mean, in the unknown reasons or the whole new country, when I was required to travel, it was not easy for me, right, to learn about freeways and all the exits and all. So navigation was itself the first magical thing. which I experienced in year 2008, 7 actually. Anyways, so the point here is the applications, big data applications. See, guys, keep your eyes open and keep focusing and contribute or learn. Okay, so of course, the real-time traffic on roads, yeah, that's one of the big data application to my knowledge, right? Let's talk about some another application called crowdsourcing. Now, let me actually Google it. Crowdsourcing. Fine. Now, what is crowdsourcing? I mean, you guys might have heard about outsourcing, right? Is it ridiculous? Oh, my goodness, this is ridiculous. You guys might have heard about outsourcing. It's old already, right? What what does it mean? Outsourcing nowadays, I mean, it's also obsolete because of the remote work possible. Delegation of work to other. So we know, USA companies might outsource their work to Indian developers or Indian companies, right? Because they wanted to take benefit of 8 hours of their and 8 hours of other country, and that's why India and nearby west, I mean East Coast was primary. So basically, they wanted to work 24/7, but then while they sleep, we will work for them, for example, and they again get back to work, so they get advantage of 16 hours of work a day. uh, I mean, that's what outsourcing. Another reasons might be there, of course, the lower pay scale and all, but that's again secondary. But you know what is outsourcing, right? Now, how about cloud sourcing? How many of you know cloud sourcing? So of course you may Google, right? So cloud sourcing, fine. What is it? So outsourcing was the original one, but now people talk about cloud sourcing. So that's when companies they come together. I mean companies which need infrastructure or services like IT services. They actually go use some clouds, and they use more or one cloud, not necessarily one. So that's actually cloud sourcing, right? Is an arrangement in which a company pays a third-party cloud hosting provider to deliver and support IT services that could be provided in-house. I mean, private and public and enterprise clouds, right? So fine. So cloud sources, uh, I'm actually talking crowdsourcing, okay? And this is not any new, crowdsourcing. Originally, even when you do research, there was something called survey. Okay, what happens in survey, that you go to many people, you provide them maybe paper-based form, and then you get their response. I mean feedback, and then you do some survey. I mean do analysis. That's called survey, right? But now the time has changed. People used to provide paper form. Instead of that, we have website form, right? HTML form, and uh, people used to type, but then now people collect data in let's say iPad or touch based devices. And on top of that, nowadays you can fill information from your smart devices, right? So basically crowdsourcing is collection of information, opinions, or uh, information from work or a group of people. There is usually sourced via internet. That means you do not go physically to people and ask them for the information to be provided. You don't collect paper based forms. No, it's primarily sourced via internet. That means be most digital, okay, or you may say virtual. So crowdsourcing, that's a very common term to collect data from people via internet. Now, know that there are legal concerns about crowdsourcing, because if you collect data of people uh, under, behind their agreement, without their agreement, that is actually against the privacy laws, right? So please make sure when you work for crowdsourcing, make sure you know the rules and regulations. You must not act against privacy of people, privacy of enterprises, right? So crowdsourcing, of course, you have a lot of data. and you guys know how this happens, like cookies and all. That's part of the crowdsourcing logic. You guys know, right? Cookies, yes or no? Right? So we understand cloud sourcing, do we? I give you some, contents also, like outsourcing, then cloud sourcing, and now we talked about crowd sourcing, right? And here I'm raising a bar. Make sure you respect intellectual properties and privacies. Okay, uh, learn about IT rules and regulations. I think we have some page to talk about this, about big data and security concerns. Okay, we'll have that down in the line. So crowdsourcing is one of the application of big data and analytics. Do you agree with me on that? So once you have data, of course, you're going to run algorithms. So storage as well as processing, that all together is big data and analytics. So big data, that means storage, and analytics is like processing. That's when sometimes big data and analytics, I choose to say other than big data analytics, just big data analytics. Okay, fine. Anyways, so that's one another application we are bringing it to you, right? So fine. So then, any questions? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next topic in the row. Guys, I'll have to put alarm, because if I will speak, I will not know when it's time to stop. So, and because there is some 5 minutes break and all, it's Friday, 12:40. I have to stop. Okay, fine. 12:40. I have to stop. So that is okay. Uh, All right, so we'll move on to some lab work, because you'll have lab two, right, next Thursday, and prior to that I have to create the base for you, right? So let's talk about uh, some program first, okay? Uh, Word count program, okay? So see, any language or paradigm or something you learn, then you might write your hello world program. Yeah. C programming, when you might have started learning, you might have been asked to write hello world program, hello world, right? Display hello world on the screen. So that way, in this analytics, big data and analytics, most simplest job to do is the word count. So imagine you have set of files as input, okay, and they can be 5 files or 5 million, doesn't really matter. But imagine you have set of words, files or set of words. We are not concerned about the file names and all. All we are concerned is the content of those files, which might be one huge file or 5 million chunk file chunks. Okay, so and your job is to count the number of words. Very simple, right? I believe you guys have used WC command in Linux in your ELCP or LOSP subject, right? WC stands for word count. Now I tell you, year 2012 maybe or 10, okay? Interviewer were asking, to write the algorithm of word count. See, that's when it's been let's say 10 plus years. At that time, interviewer were asking, to explain and write program about word count. Can you believe that? How that was important, and we didn't know why it was so important. But then now, today, when we know that the whole cloud and big data and IoT and all, their simplest program is actually word count. So at that time, maybe interviewer themselves wanted to learn various ways of counting the words. Because see, when interviewer interviews you, he has also some you know interest in learning new things. Okay, and whatever might be something which he's interested in, he or she, he might bring up to you, or whichever is latest or required in the industry at that time. So so be prepared. Even the small stuff like WC command from your semester one, which is actually might have been, returned. I mean, written in, 1990s also. But that itself, the algorithm of counting word uh, and variations are important. So you might have data, or initially you might have data in one file or on one computer, but then the scenarios changed. I mean, now data is not on one computer; data is there on multiple computers, because one computer cannot hold terabytes of data. No, so no, the scenario has changed, and the data is there on multiple computers, uh, like in cluster, right? So still you want to do the same common stuff, which is word count, for example. And it's actually word count leads to, aggregations, analytics, okay? That's when word count is the base program or base, algorithm or logic for analytics. So what is the difference of WC command versus word count program, what we are going to talk for data analytics? The primary difference is WC command, what you used, it was working on, the data on the single computer. Okay. Uh, at least data was brought to the WC command. All the data, what you want to, count the words, they were all brought to WC command. So there was, moving data to code, one thing. Another is primarily data was assumed to be, on single computer, okay, and limited memory support, right? But now this word count has to do the same job, counting of words. I mean, frequencies, right? Word frequency. Uh, so unique word, I mean distinct words, and their occurrences, I mean frequencies. But then the requirement here is you have huge data which might be scattered across multiple nodes, and you don't have a supercomputer. I mean, you guys have to use as much computing power as possible, or you say you have to use as much resources as possible from the cluster itself. And you guys have more challenges like limit the bandwidth uses as less as possible. Of course, all other concerns I mentioned yesterday, like the heat and power and the infrastructure and all those things. So word count program, we will touch this program many times in this semester. Okay, just counting words, nothing more than that. uh, okay, we will touch that. So I will actually play a video. You guys tell me at least, are you able to hear or not? Okay, and it might be a little low voice because I recorded it, but still tell me, can you hear it or not? Yeah, so I know it's very, low voice there. So most likely this video has been shared in some other folder. I will provide you that folder so you download and hear it again locally, other than me playing and, you hearing. But I'm speaking while, the video is moving for now, because I'll have to explain what is happening. Okay, where is my mouse? So what is this video about? It's like on my Mac last year sometime, early morning, I recorded this just so that I can have independence So I would have, Java installed on my computer. I would check its version. I would have Hadoop installed on my computer. I will check its version, and then I would start Hadoop, which has multiple components. We will learn about it. Okay, and then I would have a word count program, Java program. Of course, I will compile and then I will run that program. Its input is, set of files in something called HDFS, which is Hadoop Distributed File Systems. Okay, and then when I run that program, it will, create output folder. Okay, and it will literally, read all those files from the distributed file systems. It will read line by line, and it will, create its internal data structure to count the words that with their frequencies. Okay, and finally it will write it out to, output folder, uh, one or more files in which line by line it will write the word and its frequency. Okay, so that's the primary purpose, and it's one of the analytics also, but it is a simplest thing we know is nothing but word count, but it is still analytic. Okay, analytics, right? So this was the Hadoop map reduce Java program. We will learn in detail how the program works, how the file system works, etc. But then guys, be prepared. You will need Java, and you will need Hadoop. If you may, go to cloud instances, these things can be availed there also. Okay. Uh, so, however, maybe on your local computer, Linux or Mac or Windows, you should be able to do this, Hadoop installation and run MapReduce programs. Okay, and as I said, there are so many things. So time by time we'll learn. Okay, time to time we'll learn all these things. So this video is actually showing that you started the Hadoop, then you ran the program, and then monitor it. So of course there are, many services which you may be able to monitor via certain port numbers, that there are files in the distributed file system, uh, in the input, right? And then there is a program which you compile, like word count.java. Okay, this program is ready available from Apache Hadoop org. Okay, and you will see, the cluster. This is cluster of one computer, but later on we will have cluster of multiple computers too. Okay, so we'll learn about Hadoop, where you will have, cluster of single computer. Then you will learn something called pseudo distributor mode, and then distributor mode. So they all will go in row, but you that will be step by step. So you have to, attend labs and lectures, otherwise you will not be able to connect the dependencies. And there are a lot of things, dependent on previous lectures. So please make sure you attend classes, don't miss any. Okay, so this video is actually talking about all those things in nutshell. I mean, start to end, the map reduce and the word count program. Okay, and how exactly I'm doing it. Okay, so it was I could demonstrate it live, but many times, I have to be ready with the system. System might be slow, network might be slow, etc., etc. That's when I recorded it as a video, and saved it. Okay, so we will see this syntax also, all these commands, how do they work. And finally, when you will run, you will be able to see that the job is running. It's called job. Okay, you have to like submit a job to the cluster infrastructure, right? And then that job will run. So you'll be literally able to see that job is running. The way, in OS there are status of process. I mean, running status, suspended. That way, these jobs will also have their states. So you will be literally able to see those states here. See, new, then submitted, accepted, running, finished, etc. Right? So, and then lastly, in output folder, we'll go and check the result, which are nothing but files only, but those files will have words and their frequencies. Okay, so this is one starting for Hadoop and data analytics. Okay, and as I said, we are not literally just learning Hadoop, we are into learning the architectures and the concepts behind the scene for MapReduce, or HDFS, which is distributed file system. And we'll also touch up other tools where there might be some different concepts. So compare and contrast way of learning will be definitely interesting. Okay. So once you have those output files, you may download, and you will actually be able to see that input was such and output is like such. I mean, the count, like it shows hello was 13 times, fourth was 4 times, Hadoop was 2 times, fifth was 3 times, file was 2 times. I mean, this is just nothing but word count, but this is actually done in a distributed environment. Okay. Where you guys have Hadoop framework in place, and you are actually utilizing the concept of moving data to code, uh, and you are talking about distributed file system as well as distributed processing. So that was just a video. I know the voice was not clear, but I already spoke in parallel. So I hope that was understood, right? So lastly, I have mentioned HDFS and MapReduce, okay, and high-level steps of executing word count, Java program, right? Video I have already shown you, right? So we will talk about daemon. I mean, do you know, the processes which run in background are called daemon. I actually know how to make daemon processes also. You might also learn the same. Okay, but HDFS is having master slave architecture for storage, and MapReduce is also having master slave architecture for processing. Okay, so we'll talk about their daemons. We have 3 minutes, so I think I'll just introduce to you. Okay, I'll just introduce to you about those daemons, or daemon. Okay, so here what you see, when JPS command, JPS stands for Java processes. It actually shows that what all processes are running. So when you will start, you know, the storage part, okay, it actually starts something called name node and data node, as well as secondary name node. So this name node is the master for storage. Data node is the server, I'm sorry, worker for the storage. And secondary name node is like a backup guy, okay? Is like a backup guy. Fine. So about storage, there are three components: name node, data node, and secondary name node. I repeat, name node is master for storage. Data node is worker or slave for the storage. Secondary name node, we'll see the purpose. Secondary name node is like a backup guy. Okay, uh, is primarily for metadata and all. Okay, we'll talk about it. And then you will, once you start storage components, then you will start processing components. And in processing components, you will see two more components processes, which is, let's say, node manager and resource manager. Okay, so one of these is again the master, and another is the worker. Okay, so resource manager is the master, while the node manager is the worker or the slave component for the programming part. So we will primarily talk about 5 components in Hadoop. uh, for storage, 3 of these: name node, data node, and secondary name node. For processing, node manager and resource manager. And there are a few more called history server, like job history server. Okay, which actually helps you to maintain history of the job assignments. Okay, so this is about introduction to Hadoop, uh, and its primary components or daemons. And we also talked about word count program, its purpose. Okay, I know I just have given you overview, but that's what you need to start with. We'll keep touching the depth as and when we talk about further more topics. So with that, I think 1 minute to go. I will stop sharing the screen, and if you guys might have any questions, please raise. So there are only 82 students in the class now, uh, but make sure you don't, leave, and you don't ignore classes. Okay, doesn't matter be it my class or anybody else. Make sure you do attend classes. More you will learn only when you will have, uh, some input from experienced people. I don't want to say that I have a lot of experience, but whatever I have is definitely more than you in certain fields. You guys also will have experience. Will learn from you also. When we share knowledge from one to other. Okay. Yeah. So Chetan and Sid Puri, yeah, it's good that you made the point that it was not audible. I knew, but then the video will be shared with you. You play locally, okay? Uh, and we'll touch those things again in labs whenever we do it. Fine. So I'll put a hold here. All of you, make sure you do attend the class labs and take advantage of the material shared. I actually shared it ahead of time, all the content, so that you can learn based on your pace. Maybe that content will help you towards your interviews if you are getting interviewed to any giants or companies. Fine. So keep preparing for your interview while you learn with from us in your 7th sem. Yeah. So all the best, and we'll see you in the next week. Fine. Thank you. You may disconnect now.